the sights and the sounds of yesteryear. The Lancaster, flanked by 2 Spitfires. I beg your pardon, Spitfire and Hurricane. I haven't got my glasses on. If you can tell the difference at that distance, you should be up at 109 going dagger, 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 dagger. As if I'd been at grown up.
As Brendan said, every single aircrew member in both the United States Air Force and the Royal Air Force, and indeed the Royal Navy, were all volunteers. Whilst you could be conscripted into the services, no one forced you to fly. That was your choice. The Lancaster is now operated as a living memorial to the 55,573 aircrew who didn't come home, the 8,403 that were wounded, and the 9,838 that became prisoners of war.
And also a tribute, and remembering those words of Winston Churchill, how true they were. Never before in the field of human conflict was so much owed by so many to so few. I suppose if you were to take the absolute essence of the Battle of Britain Memorial Flight Melbourne, it would be to say, we do remember.
Absolutely, yes, and it's always worth, if you're ever in Lincolnshire, it's worth going along to Coningsby to the work that these guys do on these aircraft. The ground engineers are so dedicated, and they do a wonderful job keeping them flying.
And with this living history, it means that not only we do remember, we shall remember.
Yes. Now, of course, the Lancaster's story started with a failure. The initial idea was a twin-engine aircraft called the Manchester, powered by 2 Rolls-Royce Vulture engines, which were extremely good at stopping. Unfortunately, when one stopped, the other one could only really be guaranteed to get you to the scene of the crash, and quite a number of aircraft were lost through engine failures. Somebody had the bright idea of borrowing 4 engines from the Beaufighter production line, nailing them onto a new wing, and the Lancaster was born, and it was an instant success.
Roll, ladies and gentlemen, head on to the bank. The famous victory roll. So much a no-no at all the fighter squadrons, because the pilots would come back full of adrenaline, they're still alive, they do their victory roll, and of course when they came down the CO would give them a right going over, because of course they could have suffered all sorts of battle damage, which would have meant they would have a terrible accident. The pilots were far more valuable than the aircraft.
Absolutely, and still remains the case today, of course. Now, one of the things with the Lancaster was that it had a very, very large bomb bay. This was done by putting the main spar for the wing actually through the fuselage higher up. It meant the bomb bay was huge. It could carry right up to the 22,000-pound Grand Slam bomb, but it did mean it was very difficult to get in and out of. And in fact, aircrew survival rates on Lancaster squadrons were something like 7 or 8% less than Halifax or Stirling squadrons, because it was more difficult to get out of in an emergency.
And I have to say, as somebody that is so heat tank to back, and if I were to pick one difference more than anything else between two, the Lancaster is so much more manoeuvrable.
Really?
Yep.
Yeah. And you were saying that Alex Henshaw used to loop
rudder work, yes. B-17 rudders, what are they? But it was designed so that you sat there in formation to be shot at.
But of course the B-17, we'll talk about it later, was designed as a maritime patrol bomber. It wasn't designed to operate over Europe at all.
The aircraft today is being flown by Flight Lieutenant Tim Dunlop, who apparently has his name on the tyres. Flight Lieutenant Neil Farrell is the co-pilot. Flight Lieutenant Don Eaton is the navigator. And Flight Lieutenant Jim Stokes is the flight engineer. And in fact, he's lowered those Dunlops now.
So Dunlop is dangling his Dunlops.
Indeed.
That could go pear-shaped, couldn't it? Anyway.
Only if they have a puncture. So as you see the problem with the Manchester, the earlier design, was the wingspan was designed to fit in the available hangars. So it wasn't really wide enough to get the altitude performance it needed. And the higher you got, the less like you were, the horrible nasty little German anti-aircraft battery wouldn't send something up to ruin your afternoon. So these did used to fly very high. Of course, most famous for the Dams raid, that was very, very low level, just 60 feet across the Mona, Ada and Sorba Dams. And ladies and gentlemen, now as we have the Lancaster coming past, we see the fighters coming in behind to join up. Please give them away.
There we are, ladies and gentlemen, truly a sigh for a Merlin. Dunsfold Wings and Wheels 2018 and the Battle of Britain Memorial Flight.
Absolutely superb as ever.
Thank you, lads.
And of course, we mentioned earlier on, we do have two Bomber Command veterans signing over at
So there's a Dunlop is done, and Joe Lexington.
Yeah,
right, okay,
yeah.
fine, works for me.
And yeah, the Parrot flew the, yeah, it's all interesting. So they'll be coming past for the final pass now. As they come past, we will let you listen to those Merlins.
And we will stand up and wave as well.
Shall.
So please feel free, ladies and gentlemen.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Battle of Britain Memorial Flight.
Bravo. Please wave because they'll look down, they can see you. They may look small up there, but you look really big to them, ladies and gentlemen. So hats, coats, bras, umbrellas, as ever, babies, anything you got. Give them a big wave. Thanks, lads. Marvellous.